Imagine a sword, a legendary blade that can shatter mountains, suddenly choosing you. Not just choosing you, but nuzzling against your hand like a lost puppy begging for affection. Now imagine this happening right in front of the one man you're terrified of most. Your ex-husband, who also happens to be the most powerful immortal in the realm, and the very man who once used that exact sword to end your life. This wasn't a nightmare. This was my new reality, a reality where I was supposed to be a nobody named Lucas, but a ghost from my past was refusing to let me go. I could still feel the phantom sensation of the red thread being woven around my soul by the god of marriage himself. It was a surreal moment, sealing my fate not to my former husband, but to his own disciple, a young man named Oliver. I, a being generations older, who should have been his senior in the sect, was now his consort. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. And now, my new, unwilling husband was dragging me to pay respects to the sect elders, with our first stop being the audience chamber of the Grand Master himself, James. My ex, the man who had once plunged a sword straight through my heart. Oliver Eurostrade's handsome face was a mask of pure annoyance, his voice a low hiss meant only for my ears. Listen to me, and listen well. Once we are inside that hall, you are to be silent. Do not utter a single word in my master Eurostrade's presence. You are beneath his notice, a nameless, rankless nobody who never should have been shackled to me in the first place. This marriage only happened to appease our parents and their incessant nagging. You will do well to remember your station. I offered a placid, agreeable nod. Inwardly, I was just trying not to laugh. I was eons older than this boy. By all rights, I should be his grand marshal uncle. Getting worked up over a childer Eurostrade's temper tantrum felt like a waste of energy. So, I flashed him a grin that was probably far too cheerful for the situation, and chirped, crystal clear. My easy compliance seemed to mollify him slightly. The hard lines around his mouth softened just a fraction. And one more thing, he added, his tone still sharp as a shard of ice. Do not attempt any of those sly, manipulative tricks you used to win over my parents. Not here, not in front of my master. He will not hesitate to kill you and bury your body in the peach grove behind the mountain without a second thought. A flicker of confusion went through me. When had James become so utterly merciless? I absently scratched my chin, probing a little further. So, this master of yours Euro's my master now, I suppose. Oliver Eurostrade's head snapped towards me, his eyes flashing. Your master? Don't be ridiculous. The venom in his tone was potent. I backtracked, softening my voice. Right, my mistake. Your master? Is he truly that difficult to be around? Oliver took a moment to meticulously adjust his sleeves, a nervous tic I was beginning to recognize. He has always been Euro's abrasive, especially when it concerns anyone who bears even the slightest resemblance to her. If a person, or even an object, carries a scent that reminds him of her, he would rather slaughter 10 innocent souls than risk making a single mistake. A cold, tight knot of dread coiled in the pit of my stomach. Her? It couldn't be, could it? The possibility was so absurd, yet it sent a shiver down my spine. As if reading my mind, Oliver Eurostrade's gaze sharpened, dripping with disdain. His first consort. Me. The word hung unspoken in the air between us. I forced my lips into a smile that felt brittle and thin. Oliver, oblivious, straightened his robes. Henry. Oh, so that was me. In that moment, a primal urge to turn and bolt screamed through my veins. Do I really have to go through with this? Do I seriously have to face him? Oliver Euro's trade's stare was cold and unyielding, pinning me in place. Move! He seized my wrist in a grip of iron, shoved the massive hall doors open, and hauled me inside. The chamber was immense, a cavern of shadows and grandeur. Intricate serpentine dragons coiled around massive pillars, their stone scales seeming to writhe in the ethereal mist that clung to the moss-covered floor tiles. At the far end of the hall, seated upon a raised throne, was a solitary figure. Before my eyes could even begin to resolve his features, an immense wave of spiritual pressure slammed down on me, shooting up from the base of my spine and threatening to buckle my knees. Disciple Oliver, accompanied by my consort, has come to greet the master, Oliver announced, his voice ringing with reverence as he bowed deeply. Then, with a sudden, vicious shove, he sent me crashing down to my knees. The move was so abrupt I had no time to brace myself. My kneecaps met the unforgiving marble floor with a sickeningly loud crack. I hissed through clenched teeth, a bolt of white-hot pain shooting up my leg. Damn this kid, does he not know his own strength? I cursed internally, half wondering if the system could materialize a pain-numbing patch before the agony fully registered. Just then, a cold, predatory stare landed on me. It was the gaze of a caged beast that has just spotted its prey after a long, hungry winter. A stare filled with a wild, obsessive hunger. The sensation was so intense it jolted me fully alert. My head snapped up, and my eyes locked with a figure on the throne. I found myself staring directly into a pair of mesmerizing, almond-shaped eyes. For a single, eternal heartbeat, it felt as though my very soul had been ripped from my body, stripped bare, and left trembling and aching under that scrutinizing gaze. I could have torn myself from this mortal coil right then and there. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that James had just used a soul-scouring technique on me. He was suspicious. System, I cried out in my mind. The system's voice, calm and detached, echoed in my consciousness. Do not worry. James will not be able to identify you. You are no longer Henry. You are now Lucas. A wave of profound relief washed over me. I relaxed, allowing James to probe the deepest recesses of my mind, to sift through the memories and essence of Lucas. A few moments passed, and the intense pressure began to recede. James hadn't found a single trace of Henry. Who is this? James's voice drifted down from the throne, low and resonant, yet carrying a chilling distance. Each word was like a drop of ice melting slowly in a vast, dark cavern. Oliver glanced at me, his expression unreadable, before answering with practiced calm. Master, this is my consort, Lucas. The instant the name Lucas left Oliver's lips, a deafening crash reverberated from outside the hall. It sounded as if the heavens themselves had been torn asunder. Seconds later, an apprentice stumbled in, his face pale with terror, gasping for breath. Master, the sword! Break fatter euros eater euros. It just leveled the entire northern peak of Shanier Mountain. Break fate. My blood ran cold. That was James Euro's trade's personal blade. What in the name of all that is holy was happening? That sword was supposed to be sealed. How could it possibly have escaped its prison? One of the senior disciples, Lin Zai, grabbed the trembling apprentice by the shoulders. What do you mean it escaped? The young man stammered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Just Noer Euros break fate suddenly shattered its confinement. Eater Euros it tore Shania Mountain apart, and then vanished completely. Euros without a trace. I frowned, a deep sense of unease settling over me. The system chimed in again in my mind. After James used Break Fate to kill you, he sealed the sword away within Shania Mountain. So he sealed it. The question was a bitter taste in my mouth. It wasn't the sword that killed me, I muttered under my breath. It was James. I forced my gaze back up to the man on the throne. Those familiar peach blossom eyes were as deep as ancient wells, their depths holding secrets I could no longer fathom. In my past life, I had been utterly captivated by them. Every time James and I had been lost in the throes of passion, at the very peak of ecstasy, I would always tenderly kiss those eyes, a silent testament to the desire that consumed us both. But before I could lose myself further in the memory, a strange itching sensation erupted on the back of my hand. I glanced down, and my heart nearly stopped. There, nudging against my knuckles, rubbing back and forth with an almost desperate affection, was the very object of the commotion. The sword that had just obliterated a mountain peak, the legendary blade known as Break Fate. It was behaving like a devoted puppy, overjoyed to be reunited with its master. It circled me again and again, its presence insistent, almost whining. My entire body went rigid. I couldn't move a single muscle, paralyzed by a mixture of shock and fear. From his throne, James propped his chin on one hand, his eyes half-lidded, observing the bizarre scene with a lazy, predatory curiosity. Oliver just stared, his face a canvas of utter bewilderment. The young apprentice who had brought the news muttered under his breath, his voice filled with confusion. "Waiter Euros, isn't that sword supposed to only form a bond with the immortal lord?" He then added in a whisper so faint it was barely audible, "Ender Euros and the legendary mistress of the past." I fought to keep my expression neutral. So the old legends were true after all. Seeing me frozen like a statue, Break Fate emitted a soft, chiming sound like a pouting child, and nudged my palm with its hilt. On pure instinct, my fingers curled around it, running over the cool metal. The sword pulsed with a joyful, brilliant light in response. Before I could process what was happening, a sharp command echoed from the throne. James had spoken, his voice laced with cold authority, ordering the sword to return. Break Fate didn't even twitch. It completely ignored its master. 4 pairs of eyes landed on me simultaneously, their combined intensity sharp and hot, like 1,000 needles and 1,000 torches searing my skin. Oliver Eurostrade's lips parted, as if he was about to speak, but James Eurostrade's voice cut through the silence first, sharp and dangerous. "Who are you, Euros, really?" I kept my head bowed, my voice deliberately quiet and subservient. "In response to the immortal master, this humble one is merely Oliver Eurostrade's consort." A soft, humorless chuckle escaped James's lips, his eyes unreadable pools of darkness. "Then why do you not look at me when you speak? Damn you, James." I clenched my jaw, gritted my teeth, and slowly lifted my face, forcing a servile, placating grin onto my lips. "Your Majesty's divine aura is simply too overwhelming. This lowly one dares not look upon you directly." "Is that so?" James's voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. Then, with a flash of light that cut through the heavy air, the Break Fate sword, which had been circling me like a loyal hound, finally obeyed and returned to James's hand. He ran a fingertip along the bladder Eurostrade's hilt, his gaze lowered, long lashes casting deep shadows over his eyes. It was impossible to guess what he was thinking. Does he suspect something? I ignored Oliver Eurostrade's questioning stare and sent a frantic mental whisper to the system, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Nope," the system replied coolly. Right now, James is operating in full-blown psychotic obsession mode. If he had even an inkling that you were Henry, you'd already have been skewered at least twice over by now. The Systema Eurostrade's words were brutal, but they acted like a splash of cold water, shocking me back to a semblance of calm. I rolled my tongue against the roof of my mouth. So, you truly despise me that much? The system's response was matter-of-fact. Well, Eater Eurostrade's not entirely unwarranted. You were the one who orchestrated the entire kill your wife to attain enlightenment drama, and when he eventually discovered the truth of Euros, well, let's just say he hates you more than anything for the fact that you never truly loved him. A painful lump formed in my throat. I opened my mouth to argue, to defend myself. But then I saw James gently stroking the hilt of the sword, a gesture of strange tenderness, and the words died on my lips. The past was a past. It was a closed book. Honestly, when it came to the grand scheme of killing your wife to prove your Tao, it had been a win-win scenario for both of us. He achieved his ascension, and I completed my mission. After a long, tense silence, James sheathed the sword and turned his attention to Oliver. Is there anything else? Oliver bowed slightly, shaking his head. No further matters, Master. James closed his eyes and waved a dismissive hand. Then you may leave. In 3 days, the Thousand Illusions realm will open. It presents significant opportunities. Assure you are prepared to enter. Oliver Eurostrade's face lit up with a rare spark of excitement. Thank you, Master. He bowed deeply once more, then turned to depart. Noticing I hadn't moved, he shot me an impatient glare and reached out to grab me. I instinctively flinched back, the memory of his earlier roughness still fresh. A quiet, teasing whisper escaped my lips before I could stop it. Come now, dear husband. No need for pulling and tugging. I am perfectly capable of walking on my own 2 feet. Oliver Eurostrade's expression immediately darkened. Do not Euros call me that. I raised an eyebrow, a mischievous impulse taking over. I leaned in closer to him, my hand reaching out to playfully grab the sleeve of his pristine white robe. Before my fingers could make contact, James Eurostrade's voice cracked through the hall like a whip. You still haven't left. I froze, my body instantly becoming a model of obedience. I fell into step behind Oliver, heading for the exit. Just as I was about to lift my foot over the threshold, James spoke again, his voice dangerously soft. You stay. My eyes met James's across the vast hall, and a sudden, terrifying honesty pierced through me. Yeah, he was talking to me. Oliver stepped out, and the grand hall doors slammed shut behind him with a deafening boom, sealing me inside with my past. The oppressive weight in the room returned tenfold. I dropped to my knees with a thud, my body beginning to shake with a terror so pure it felt etched into my very bones. Euros, I don't understand. What does the immortal master require of me? The suffocating pressure in the hall slowly began to lift, leaving me gasping for air. I was just about to ask the system what in the hell had just transpired when a large shadow fell over me, swallowing me whole. It up. The command was soft, but my body obeyed without my permission, rising to its feet as if pulled by invisible strings. Facing James this close up, my vision swam. He was ethereal, too perfect to be real, a masterpiece carved from moonlight and ice. I stared, dazed and lost in his inhuman beauty until the system screamed in my head, snapping me back to reality. James Eurostrade's hand shot out, his fingers wrapping around my forearm in a grip as cold as a tombstone. I jerked back on instinct, a reflexive flinch away from his touch. James gave me a flat, unimpressed stare, and I immediately plastered a placating, "Please don't kill me" grin on my face. Might I be so bold as to ask why the immortal Lord has requested me to stay behind? He didn't answer with words. Instead, a cool, lingering current of spiritual energy surged from his hand into my body. The energy was overwhelming, a tidal wave that was too forceful to resist. It roamed through my meridians without mercy, exploring every corner of my being, leaving no part of me untouched. I clutched Jamser Eurostrade's arm, my knuckles turning white from the strain as waves of Norsir racked my body. Master James slowly tightened his grip, his gaze locking onto mine like a hawk seizing its prey. He leaned in closer, his voice low and rough, the previous calm in his eyes now fractured with a dangerous flicker of madness. "Who in the hell are you?" The words slithered into my ears and burrowed deep into my chest. My soul trembled, and a raw panic surged through me. The name Henry almost tumbled from my lips before I could bite it back. Thank the heavens the system kicked in at that exact moment, a mental shield slamming down to protect my identity. I barely managed to snap back to myself, still clutching his arm for dear life. I whispered weakly, my voice trembling, "To answer you, Master Euros, I am Lucas. Oliver Eurostrade Sar Euros Lucas." James cut me off, his gaze still fixed on mine, those almond-shaped eyes unblinking. "There is no need to call me Master," I instantly corrected myself, desperate to please. "Yes, Immortal Lord, try again." A frown creased Jamser Eurostrade's perfect brow. His other hand slipped around to support my waist as he released his death grip on my forearm. I steadied myself, utterly confused. Euros, I do not know which title you would prefer me to use." James looked down at me, a strange light in his eyes. "How does Oliver address me?" "Master," I answered without hesitation. The frown on James's face eased, and the faintest smirk played at the corner of his mouth. "So, you are asking to bow before me and take me as your master?" My brain short-circuited. "Wasna Eurostrade it you who just asked?" I stammered, trying to explain, but James simply waved a hand, a silencing spell sealing my lips shut. "Fine, then," he said, his fingers flicking through a series of intricate hand seals. "I shall make an exception. I will accept you as my personal disciple." With that, James traced a complex spell in the air. In an instant, several shimmering water mirrors materialized throughout the vast hall. Within them, the images of Qingyun Sector Eurostrade's most prominent elders appeared, their faces etched with confusion. "Master James," he gave them a curt nod, "I have summoned you all here to make an announcement." Then he yanked me to his side, his arm a firm band around my waist. "This is Lucas, my new, youngest apprentice. The initiation ceremony is to be held tomorrow. I trust you will all make the necessary arrangements." Without waiting for the elders' shocked reactions to register, James waved his hand again, and the water mirrors dissolved into nothingness. I wanted to scream in pure, unadulterated frustration, but my voice was still stolen from me. James glanced down, a flicker of amusement dancing in his dark eyes. "What is the matter? Are you not pleased to have me as your master?" I could only make strangled, protesting noises. James reached out and pinched my earlobe, tugging gently, his fingers twisting one slow, deliberate turn after another until the lobe began to burn with a fiery heat. I only realized what he was doing when I flinched and tried to push him away. but his hand was pressed firmly against my resistance. I twisted my head away, wincing as a sharp, stabbing pain shot through my ear. I let out a silent gasp, shoving him away as I reached up to touch the source of the pain. Before I could make sense of anything, James raised his hand. His fingertips were stained with a single drop of my blood. He summoned a clear mirror, and my reflection stared back at me. It was my face, my hair, and the new, foreign object adorning my ear. A single earring, its red gemstone gleaming like a freshly spilled drop of blood, now hung from my lobe. I glared at him, a silent fury boiling in my chest. James brushed his fingers along my cheek, his eyes reflecting the vivid red of the gemstone and my own enraged expression. He let out a soft sigh, a sound of pure contentment tinged with something deeply unhinged. A perfect fit, just as I imagined. My good disciple, James, was truly, irrevocably lost to his madness. After leaving the hall, the entire world felt off-kilter, as if it had shifted on its axis. The system was still attempting to soothe me. "It's fine. Now that you're here by his side," James's mental state has stabilized. Once he is fully grounded, the main system can intervene, erase his memories of you, and then you will be free to leave. I touched the earring, my earlobe still throbbing faintly, and let out a long sigh. What if I hadn't come back? Would James's memories have remained intact and untampered with? Not necessarily, the system replied. I mumbled to myself, does he already know who I am? Was this entire charade just some elaborate form of revenge? The system shot back immediately. Impossible. He has absolutely no clue about your true identity. I've made sure of it. I stared off into the distance, recalling Jamser Eurostrade's strange, ghostly behavior in the hall. Are you really sure? Absolutely, the system confirmed. This time, the body you inhabit is entirely different. It bears no resemblance to Henry's former appearance. Even a god would not be able to find a connection. I reluctantly let the logic sink in, but this unease remained. Maybe I should just make a run for it. But I'm already here. Where would I even go? And what if I do end up becoming James's apprentice? Eater Eurostrade's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. Isna Eurostrade it. The system paused, considering my point. That is a fair assessment. But if you distance yourself from James now, what if he slips back into his madness? It was a dead end, a perfect trap. I let out another long breath and sank onto a stone bench, watching the elegant cranes dance above the misty mountain peaks. I was still trying to formulate a plan with the system when Oliver appeared, his face a thunderous mask. What did my master say to you? I told him everything that had happened. The color drained from his face, replaced by a burning rage. He grabbed me by the arm, yanking me to my feet, his eyes spitting fire. How could the master possibly take you as a disciple? You have no spiritual foundation, no talent to speak of. What did you say to him? Lucas, I warned you not to play your games with a master. If you cross me, I swear I will not let this go. He grabbed me by the collar, his grip tightening until it became difficult to breathe. Let go of me, I rasped. We can talk about this calmly. Oliver shoved me away with a sharp, violent jerk. I went sprawling, crashing hard to the ground with no magic to cushion the fall. My hand scraped raw against the gravel. I saw him glance at my bleeding palm, then quickly look away, muttering under his breath, "Serves you right." I blinked. What in the world is wrong with this kid? I replayed his furious words in my head, and then it clicked. A sudden, dawning realization. Wait a minute, euros is he actually in love with James? A forbidden romance between master and disciple. Suddenly, the irresistible urge to poke the bear, to tease this volatile young man, washed over me. A slow laugh escaped my lips. I scrambled up from the ground, dusting myself off and giving Oliver a sly, knowing look. So, tell me, why are you so incredibly fixated on me becoming the Master Eurostrade's disciple? What are Eurostrade's really bothering you, Oliver? His face flushed a brilliant crimson, his anger mixed with a sudden, flustered embarrassment. He shoved me again, though not as hard this time. You are Eurostrade insane. Farter Eurostrade's my master. I could not possibly harbor any euros ulterior motives. I tilted my head, a smirk playing on my lips. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps only you truly know what's going on in that head of yours. Lucas, Oliver snapped, utterly furious. I just grinned, straightening my robes and leaning in to study his flushed cheeks. So what if you do? If you like someone, you should just go for it. Life's too short for all this pining. He grabbed my wrist, his grip squeezing tighter with each passing second. I winced, sucking in a sharp breath. I tried every sweet, placating word I could think of, but he wouldn't let go. I finally rolled my eyes and dropped my voice to a soft, teasing whisper. Darling, are you trying to murder your own dear husband? Oliver turned an even deeper shade of red and yanked his hand back as if he Eurostrade been burned. Mission accomplished. I clutched my own wrist, which was already starting to bruise, and took a quick step back. Oh, can't handle me using that name now, can we? With a sharp shing, Oliver drew his sword from its sheath. Lucas, I challenge you to a duel. Right here, right now. I just shrugged. Oh, you heard that, did you? He tightened his grip on the blade, his knuckles white. I scratched my ear, affecting an air of complete nonchalance. Yeah, whatever you say. This whole marriage was a farce to begin with, arranged by Oliver Eurostrade's parents. I had come into this world with no family, no history, no name to my record. I had collapsed at the foot of the mountain, and Oliver's mother, Sophia, had found me while praying for her son's safety. A seer in the mountains had told her that I was Oliver's destined match, and that if we did not bind our souls together, Oliver would face a grave calamity in the future. Terrified for their son, the Lynn parents sent an urgent message summoning Oliver back to the sect to marry me. Filial duty was not something he could refuse. So, fuming with a silent rage, Oliver had agreed. And I had said yes as well, partly to repay the Lynn family's kindness, and partly to keep James from growing suspicious. After all, if I was bound to his own disciple, it created a buffer. Even in his madness, he wouldn't Eurostrade dare kill the soulmate of one of his own. I thought I had planned it all out perfectly. But then fate, in its infinite cruelty, had thrown a wrench in the works. By some twisted turn of events, I had ended up becoming James's disciple myself. The strange, heavy weight of the earring in my lobe was a constant reminder. What in the hell was I supposed to do now? Are you spacing out again? Did you even hear a word I just said? Oliver Eurostrade's voice was as cold as ever as he sheathed his sword. I snapped back to the present, my mind still a whirl of confusion. What's wrong, my love? Shut up. Oliver Eurostrade's face, which had just started to return to its normal color, flared crimson once more. I was in high spirits, about to tease him further, when my earlobe suddenly burned with an intense heat. The red gemstone earring began to glow faintly under my skin. At the same time, I felt a cold, dangerous stare sinking into my back. I turned. There, standing in the dappled shadows beneath a blooming peach tree, was James. His eyes were locked on mine. Pink petals drifted down around him like soft snow, framing a face that was sharp, expressionless, and achingly perfect. My breath caught in my throat. He was more stunning than all the blossoms in the world. Before I could complete the thought, Oliver shoved me aside and bowed deeply. "Master." James lifted his wrist, his long, elegant fingers brushing against a branch laden with flowers. You should go back and rest." Oliver clenched his fists at his sides, then bowed even deeper. "Yes, master." I tried to duck behind Oliver's larger frame, hoping to vanish from that chilling, possessive gaze. James saw right through my attempt, and a small, dangerous smirk touched his lips. "Come here, my good apprentice." That one phrase, "my good apprentice," hit me like a thunderbolt, searing its way through my bones. It left Oliver looking dazed, his fists clenching so hard his knuckles turned white. I remained frozen, completely still. Jams's smile vanished as quickly as it had appeared. "Did you not hear me?" His voice was now laced with the ice of a harsh winter. A shiver ran through me, a cold that went straight to my soul. Oliver unclenched his fists, his eyes burning with a silent, "Heroes calling you." I shot him a glare. "No shit, dumbass. I'm not deaf." But I still walked over to James with an awkward gait, forcing myself to bow. "Your Eminence." Jams's shadow swallowed me whole. "Try again." Damn him. I bit down so hard my teeth ached. When did James develop a taste for this kind of twisted teacher-student drama? "A circumflex Euros master." I forced the word out, each syllable clipped and sharp. "Good disciple," James purred. Then, without any, he pinched my ear again, his fingers toying with a blood-red earring. "Tomorrow, you will accompany me into the Thousand Illusions realm." Oh no. I absolutely did not want to go. My face twisted in protest as I scrambled for an excuse. James saw my reluctance immediately. His cool fingertip brushed against my brow, then traced a slow, deliberate path down my face, lingering at the corner of my lips. "You do not wish to go." I was about to nod emphatically when his fingertip settled on my lips, a slow, lingering stroke that was loaded with unspoken meaning. "You don't want to go, Euros, but you still have to." I rolled my eyes. "Dead, James. You should just be dead." The master-disciple ceremony was a spectacle of epic proportions, as if they were shouting from the rooftops that their aloof, cold-hearted sect leader had taken on a new disciple named Lucas, and was surprisingly, dotingly fond of him. Throughout the entire ordeal, James kept a hold on me, his fingers often tangled in my sleeve, chaining me to his side. Just moments ago, I had managed to slip out of his grasp while he was engaged in a deep conversation with senior masters from other sects, and I made a beeline for Oliver. He was, after all, the only person I remotely knew here. But I hadn't even taken 2 steps before James, without even looking, knew. His hand shot out, yanking me back by the wrist as if he had eyes in the back of his head. He continued sipping his tea, his expression serene, but the grip on my arm was like a band of iron. I gritted my teeth. "Master, I just need to get some air." The teacup clinked down on the table. The entire hall fell utterly silent. The sect elders, who had been deep in discussion a moment ago, all excused themselves with polite, knowing nods. James lounged lazily on the small couch, one hand propped beneath his chin, that faint, infuriating smirk playing at his lips as he watched me. Or are you planning to meet someone?" Finding Oliver is hardly a secret tryst, is it? I decided it was time to remind James of my official status. I avoided his intense gaze and whispered, "Master, Oliver and I are a couple recognized by heaven and earth. Seeking him out can hardly be called a secret rendezvous, can it?" The moment the words left my mouth, the temperature in the hall plummeted. James still wore that soft, gentle smile, but his eyes had gone dark, turning into deep, unreadable abysses. He released my forearm, lifted his teacup, and took a slow, deliberate sip. Through the fragrant mist rising from the tea, his piercing eyes locked onto mine. "Oliver, the soulmate matched by heaven and earth. Lucas, you are my disciple now. My master, that old bond means nothing. He does not count." James was really losing it. I squeezed my eyes shut, hoping this whole bizarre interaction was just a hallucination. "Wrong, master," he murmured. He pressed his hand over my eyes and leaned in closer. I pretended to tremble, fluttering my lashes against his palm. I wouldn't dare divorce him, not really. Jamser Eurostrade's hand moved, his fingers gripping my jaw. He yanked me forward, dragging my entire body into his personal space until our faces were inches apart. His presence was cold, unyielding, and utterly commanding. I was trapped. Trying to pull back was pointless. All I could do was mutter, "Ire Euros and Oliver Euros." James let out a soft, dismissive click of his tongue. Instantly, I corrected myself. "Ire Euros and my master Euros." He clicked his tongue again. I tried again. "Ire Euros and Oliver Euros." Finally, the sound stopped. Damn him. He was truly a dead man walking. I obeyed his silent command, murmuring that we should wait until after our excursion into the Thousand Illusions realm to discuss ending my marriage to Oliver. James didn't say a word, but he loosened his grip and handed me the teacup instead. A faint, weary hum escaped his lips. "Finish this before you go. You've already drunk from it. Why are you making me drink from it now?" I screamed inside my head. Back when I had left the sect with James to live a carefree life, sharing saliva had been a daily occurrence. But that was a lifetime ago. Staring at the clear, half-full cup, I just couldn't bring myself to drink from it. James held the cup steady, his eyes half-lidded. "HM, you're under someone else's roof now, Lucas. You can't act so wild." I reached out to take it, but James wouldn't release it. He simply tilted his wrist slightly, an unspoken order. I got it. I sucked in a breath and leaned forward, my lips parting to take the cup. I deliberately aimed for a dry spot on the rim, but before my lips could touch the porcelain, James twisted his wrist. The very patch I had meant to dodge, the place still damp from his own mouth, ended up pressed between my teeth. My eyes shot wide open. He straightened up, one hand steadying my waist as he guided the cup, slowly tipping it so the warm, jasmine-scented tea slid into my mouth. The cup was small, the amount of tea minimal. In seconds, it was empty, but James still didn't Eurostrade tea let go. I gulped it down quickly and tried to pull back. "Thank you, master." James twirled the empty cup between his fingers, his voice casual. "Go on then." I stood up and practically bolted for the door. Only when I reached the courtyard outside did I finally dare to exhale. I peered back through a crack in the door, muttering under my breath, and what I saw froze me to the spot. The hall was bathed in the pale, ethereal glow of moonlight. James was seated alone in its center. His wide, plain white sleeves, edged with delicate golden thread depicting birds and flowers, rose slowly. His long, strong fingers danced playfully with a teacup. After a pause, he lifted the cup to his own lips. and he pressed a light, deliberate kiss exactly where the rim had just been touched by my teeth. That spot, the one I had bitten, now bore his mark. The sight was intoxicating. A man kissing a teacup as if it held the most sacred thing in the world. My breath caught, my heart hammering in my chest. A shiver surged from my lips straight down to my belly. James didn't seem to notice my spying. His gaze lingered on the cup, lost in a world of his own. Then, a voice came from behind me, making me jump. It was Oliver. "What are you staring at?" he snapped, his voice impatient. I flinched, instinctively trying to look away. But before I could, James looked up. Those hypnotic almond eyes, calm as still water, met mine through the crack in the door. His lips tilted into a faint, knowing smirk. Then, right before my widening eyes, he leaned in and kissed the cup again. By the time I stumbled away from the hall, my legs felt like they didn't belong to me. I probably looked like a scholar who'd had his spirit drained by a siren. Oliver Eurostrade's eyes narrowed as he studied my face, his voice ice cold. "We are bound by fate now. There will be no more shameless trysts behind my back at Qing Yun sect. Do not tarnish my name." I didn't even spare him a glance. I just turned and walked straight back to the courtyard he had assigned me. For the first time, my indifference seemed to get to him. Oliver froze, and then a wildfire of fury surged through him. "Lucas, you dare to ignore me?" I shot back over my shoulder. "You're not exactly a god of wealth. I'll pass on the effort of paying you any attention." With those words, I didn't wait for his reaction and slammed the door shut. It was time he stopped treating me like a child. Thinking back on what had just happened in the hall, my expression hardened. Did James truly not recognize me, or had he already moved on? My mind was a tangled mess. I let out a breath, stepped into the inner room, and collapsed onto the bed, fully clothed. The next day, I didn't see James. Instead, a majestic crane appeared bearing a message. "Good disciple, focus on your cultivation within the yard. Do not let me catch you stepping a single foot outside." The bird delivered its words, then transformed into a golden rune that clung tightly to the courtyard gate, sealing it shut. The system explained that no one from the outside could enter, and no one from the inside could leave. It would last for exactly 24 hours. I frowned. Was he really just locking me up? Apparently so. The golden seal didn't fade until the next morning at dawn. The door swung open, and James stood in the doorway, draped in that same moonlit silk robe, the intricate gold-threaded crane pattern on its fabric utterly graceful. There was no other word for it. "Let's go." Seeing me step out, James naturally reached over and took my wrist. We climbed onto the magnificent Phoenix chariot, soaring through misty clouds as ancient, mythical beasts cleared our path and cranes called out in the sky. Before long, we arrived at the entrance to the Thousand Illusion Realm. The realm was still sealed. Disciples from every major sect waited below. At the sight of our chariot, they all bowed respectfully. My scalp prickled as James led me down from the chariot, my head spinning, my nerves stretched taut. Midway down, I caught Oliver Eurostrade's gaze. His eyes held nothing but pure, unadulterated confusion, like a child who had completely lost the plot. I had no idea what he was confused about, but in that moment, I finally felt it real, crippling social anxiety. Meanwhile, elders from other sects chatted with James like old friends. Yet, through it all, James never loosened his grip on my hand. It remained as tight as ever. Scattered whispers drifted into my ears, sharp and low, like needles in the silence. Who in the world is that? How did he get to descend from the Phoenix chariot with immortal Lord James? That must be Lucas, James's newest disciple. He seems to have a real soft spot for him. Wait, didn't immortal Lord James swear off taking any more disciples? Even the 5 he took before were just honorary titles. Are they really just master and disciple? The way he holds him, euros, are you out of your mind? Say that any louder and break fate will split you in two. The gossip died down quickly. My heart was pounding. I strained my ears, leaning slightly toward the source of the sound. Do you remember immortal Yuniu, the one who rose to fame alongside immortal Lord James? Yeah, weren't they lovers? Immortal Lord James pierced him through the heart on his path to enlightenment. But it's more than that. Before all of that, they were martial brothers. Later, they went into seclusion together in the mountains. But then, immortal Yuniu was found to be tainted with demonic energy and slaughtered hundreds of people in a single night. James had no choice but to execute him for the sake of justice. After his death, Yuniu's body vanished right before James's eyes. Not even a trace was left behind. From that day on, immortal Lord James changed completely. He started chasing every trace of Yuniu like a broken man haunted by grief, carrying the break fate sword as if it were Yuniu's soul. He's despised demons ever since, convinced they hid Yuniu's soul away. He single-handedly drove them all out to the barren wastelands and has never let them return. It's like he would burn down the entire world if it meant he could find him. I lowered my eyes. Those rumors about me, euros, they weren't entirely wrong. But I didn't kill those 100 people. That was all part of the act. A deliberate, flawless performance for my mission, euros, and for James's ascension to godhood. Lucas. James turned to look at me. I snapped back to attention. Master. James gave a cool, indifferent glance toward the group of cultivators I had just been eavesdropping on. The sect members scattered like frightened birds, instantly vanishing into the sky. I had to bite back a laugh, but then my smile froze. Something inside me, a ghost of a past love, just wouldn't let it go. James tugged gently at my earlobe, his voice low and laced with amusement. Curious about me and your martial grandmaster. Your martial grandmaster. Please, I gritted my teeth. I'm not curious. James euros trade's hand slid down the side of my face. I will tell you everything when we return. I fought to keep my expression neutral. Yes, master. Good, James murmured, satisfied. My disciple. A thunderous roar of phoenixes and dragons echoed through the air. The Thousand Illusions realm had opened. Cultivators from all over surged forward, mounting their swords to enter. James led me and Oliver inside. A narrow corridor, lashed by hurricane-force winds, tore past us. Everyone was thrown from their feet, flung apart in the gale. Mirrors erupted all around us, dozens of them appearing out of nowhere, sucking people in against their will. I seized the opportunity. This was my chance to break free. I wrenched my hand from James euros trade's grasp and darted toward the nearest mirror. Just as I reached it, my wrist was yanked back hard, held in a vice-like grip. I whirled around in a panic. The look on James euros trade's face was pure steel. He hauled me bodily into his arms, his arm locking around my waist like an iron cage. Hold tight to me, his voice was low and cold. Do not get lost. I mentally rolled my eyes. Yes, master. One by one, every cultivator vanished into a mirror. Even Oliver was swept away. Only James and I remained in the chaotic corridor. I was still trying to figure out how to escape him when he suddenly yanked me toward a mirror. A flash of blinding white light and we were through. A disorienting surge swept through us. I landed smoothly, James still holding me tight around the waist. The first thing I noticed was a sweet, perfumed scent flooding my senses. I looked up. We were surrounded by misty mountains, flowing streams, a scene straight out of a legend. And yet, it felt somehow Euros familiar. Before I could get a proper look, Oliver Eurostrade's figure appeared in the distance. In that moment, I finally understood what true redemption felt like. Thank the gods, I wouldn't ever be stuck alone with James anymore. Oliver, over here. Oliver didn't respond. I quickly pushed James Eurostrade's hand off my waist and ran towards him. Master, I'll bring Oliver over. I sprinted across the grassy clearing and slapped Oliver on the shoulder, all my pent-up frustration ready to spill out. But before a single word could escape my lips, Oliver turned around. His face, normally sharp and refined, was now a flat, featureless plane of skin. Then, right before my shocked eyes, Oliver Eurostrade's body contorted and, with a soft poof, transformed into a big, plump, white mushroom. And then, it exploded. Spores shot out like tiny, silent bombs. Caught completely off guard, one of them flew straight up my nose. My head started to swim, a heavy fog descending over my thoughts. I collapsed into the soft earth. Just before everything went black, the last thing I saw was James walking towards me, slow and steady. He let the spores wrap around him like a shroud, completely unaffected, his gaze fixed only on me. What do you think James's true intentions are? Is he playing a long game of revenge, or is there a twisted, desperate love buried beneath all that madness? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you're as captivated by this twisted tale of love and rebirth as I am, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for the next chapter of their story. You won't want to miss what happens next.